Hey guys, it's Izzy here with Vlogmas Day 19. We're so close to Christmas now, and that's why I'm doing this video kind of early, because this time of year there's just so much going on. So many different videos that creators have to get out there, like the best of the year, hauls, all of that kind of thing. So we are doing my wrap up today, but I do intend to read a lot more books this month. I should be finishing one today and many more this week, so please stay tuned for that if you guys would like to know about what other books I read this month. But let's talk about the ones that I have completed so far. First, we have The Vaster Wilds by Lauren Groff. This is one of my highly anticipated books of the year because I have found love for Lauren Groff this year. She was my first 5-star of the year with Florida, which is a short story collection. This has one of the similar themes of survivalism, but I read this because, well, I was going to read it anyway, but I read it now because it was nominated for Best Historical of the Year at Goodreads. It did not win, but out of all the ones I've read so far, this has been the best. I give it a 4 stars, so I loved it, but it's not a new favorite. Character, we have a nameless narrator, and that's nothing that ever really bothers me. I don't really care about if they have a name or not, but I did not find myself caring for this character. We'll talk about it more with the writing and all. It was kind of hard to follow, so it was hard to follow the development of the character. Atmosphere, I loved it. It was in colonial America in Virginia, which is one of my favorite places, and I've just really been wanting to read books in that time period at that location, and just doing research has been so hard to find on certain topics, so this one was great for that. But let's get to the writing. This was a fever dream. It was hard to follow because we had dream sequences because our character was sick for part of it, and so she would have fever dreams and whatnot, and then we would just have dreams in general of her sleeping. Then we would have flashbacks to her life in England, and it was just really hard to follow all of that. And as I said, for the development of the character, it was really hard to see what was real and what wasn't, so I couldn't really be like, oh, this is the character developing. It was very hard to follow on that matter, but the descriptions were absolutely beautiful, and it was very poetic. Now, the plot, that's the thing. This is not a plot-driven book. It is not a character-driven book. It's one of those books that is more about ideas and themes. We have a big theme of names. How I said, we have a nameless narrator here. What do names mean? Why do we have names? Only important things have names. It's so fascinating to think about. And we have a scene with the character going around. She's like, why can't I just go name things whatever I want to name them? Why do I have to name them what Adam and Eve named everything? So she goes and is pointing out new names for things. Have a name for herself, so is she not important? And I think another important theme here is, where do we sit in the universe? Because we have one scene of her on the ship going to America, and she's laying there in the middle of the ocean looking up and, you know, can see tons and tons of stars. She feels so small. But then we go to when she is out here trying to survive in the wilderness and is laying on the shores of the Chesapeake Bay looking up at those same stars, and she feels like she means something in this universe, that she is important. And I love those topics. Then there's the themes, as I said, of survivalism, which is very basic, of a girl going off into the wilderness and trying to survive. We see that theme a lot in Lauren Groff's writing. I would be interested to know why. Like, why does she do that with her writing? What inspires her with that? What it is to be human, and the primal instinct that we all have, even in the modern times. I know this took place like 300 years ago, but still, there is that primal urge in us there where we could just go crazy, and it's just so close, like just beneath the surface, and seeing how that can come out in a person, I really enjoyed reading about that. I have a short story collection here, and that is The Republic of East L.A. by Luis J. Rodriguez. This was published in 2003, so keep that in mind for our location. We have a lot of different characters from all walks of life. They're mainly all of Hispanic origins, but they're all different genders, all different ages, so it is diverse in that way. And atmosphere, we are in East Los Angeles, obviously. and which is very much a big Hispanic area, so you're learning a lot about their culture, which is always great to learn about different cultures and just different how different cultures do things differently. The writing was good. A lot of it made me stand back and reflect, and that was my favorite part, was the writing. But this is very much slice of life, so it did get repetitive after a time, and reading that for nearly 300 pages, I just didn't care that much. Another book that was nominated for Best Historical, and it did win in that category, and I think it won for Best Debut, that is Weyward by Amelia Hart. This is following 3 timelines, 3 different women, but they are all connected. So our first timeline, I'm just going to go in like chronological order. We have Alva, who was in the 1600s and was a witch put on trial. And then we have one during World War II, which is Violet. She is the daughter of some rank of nobility. I don't really remember. Viscount, maybe? I don't know. I'm sorry for my British viewers. But she's a daughter of a Viscount, and is this very different wayward, might we say. And then we have a character who is her grandniece. I'm sorry, I don't know the correct word for that, but Violet's brother's granddaughter, who is Kate, who is in 2019, I think, and is in an abusive relationship and is trying to escape from that. Alva's was the one I found the most interesting, because I haven't really read that much about witch trials and what it was like to be a woman being tried for being a witch, just because she's a little different. And I was really intrigued by that. Violet was this really naive and your typical like young adult kind of main character. And she was just so much like, I'm not like other girls, and I didn't really like that. And then Kate was fine. It was very much like any other contemporary heroine that you'll read from, nothing new to the table. But one thing I didn't like was all the male characters except one were written as evil. If you're going to write somebody as evil, you need to give them a backstory of why they're that way, because people aren't just one-dimensional evil. So yes, all the male characters were one-dimensional. And there was a weird thing. Every time she described a man, he only said like dandruff on his shoulders, and I'm like, why? Atmosphere, I absolutely love this atmosphere. This is cottagecore, that aesthetic. If it was a book, we're in a little English cottage in the north of England, and I loved that setting. Writing, this was good as in lyrical, and it really reminded me of like Jane Austen and fairy tales, that esque of writing, but it did go on a bit long for me, so I was doing the audiobook, so that didn't really hinder my experience that much. And then plot, I love how we were all connected throughout the generations, and I love trying to find out how these women were connected, and it was a good book. Ooh, next we have a beast that was a 5-star prediction for me, and that is Crossroads by Jonathan Franzen. I loved it, but it is not a new favorite, so therefore not a 5-star. The characterization in this was fantastic. We're seeing characters all from the same family, so 3 of the children and then both parents, and it's so interesting to see how they can all be raised by the same people but all end up on completely different paths, and how one family can all deal with the same event but differently. Something that it reminds me of is the movie The Last Duel, because in that movie we see the same plot point happen from 3 different point of views, and that was kind of how this was, but more like 5 point of views instead of just 3. Atmosphere, I love that this was set in the 70s, in the early 70s, around the time of like the counterculture, but we're in suburban Chicago, just following your normal family, when usually with this we see people who are just like, I'm so different, or people who are famous and all of that, when this is just your normal typical American family. They look perfect on the outside but have their problems, because everybody has their problems, and I really liked that setting. The writing in here was great once again, but it is really dense, so I did end up picking up the audiobook, even though that wasn't my original plan. But I was like, yeah, this is dense. I am going to need to follow along and have somebody read it to me. And then plot, again, this is very much a character-driven story, so definitely more character-driven than plot-driven, but I did love how we are seeing religion in the lives of young people, and what it is like to grow up in religion, and what the counterculture was like with also having that Christian background. Last book here, and that is Hang the Moon by Jeanette Walls. This was also nominated for Best Historical of the Year. I was a huge fan of this. I did do the audiobook for this one as well. Did I? I feel like I did the audiobook. Maybe not. Maybe I didn't. I don't remember. But characters, all very flat, one-dimensional characters. Atmosphere, we're set in rural Virginia during, oh, we have 2 Virginia books this month, but during the Prohibition era, so that was a new kind of era for me to read about that I've only read about once before, and that was years ago, so it was something new. I do think there's hope in them that the writing will get better, but I wasn't too impressed this time around. And then the plot is basically a retelling of Elizabeth I and the Tudors, so I knew all what was happening, but it was a bit out there, as, I mean, this happened to random people, yeah. But it was an alright book. Pick it up if you're intrigued. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, comment, rate, and subscribe. And don't forget to ring that notification bell to be notified when all my videos go live. If you made it through this whole video, leave a car emoji in the comments below. I hope that all of you have a very Merry Christmas and Happy Holiday Season and a Happy New Year. So I'll see you in the next one. Bye!